culture or your home. So we all have cultures, we nurture culture. Then the question is, we have culture in our homes, we have culture in our church, we also have culture in our country, we also culture in our tribes, we also have culture in our organization. Now the question is culture good or bad? It depends on what we want. For example, in some cultures, like for example, let me take a very good example of a dowry system. In Kenya, the man has to give dowry to the lady who is going to marry or to the lady's family. And it's a good culture in Kenya. In India, the lady has to give, the female has to give dowry to the man, depending on his education status and his employment. So now, tell me which is a good culture and which is a bad culture. Is Indian culture is good or this dowry system in Kenya is good? In some countries, we eat some food. In some countries, you don't eat some food. In some countries, eating beef is a delicacy. In some countries, eating beef is not considered as a delicacy. In some countries, eating snakes is a delicacy. In some countries, we don't even touch snakes. You're scared of snakes. So culture varies. And we all define what is a good culture or a bad culture. Now, before we venture into organization culture, we should first of all understand what is the current culture, and then why should we transform the organizational culture? Without understanding the current culture, we don't even need to venture or to transform the organizational culture. Now, let me open it up. Now, I would just want to have a quiz from the list that is given here. Pick some words that depicts a good and bad culture. I need some answers from you. See the words here, and seeing the words, can you say anything that comes to your mind as a good culture or a bad culture? I need one or two answers, a response from the participants. You can unmute your mic and you can, transparency. Transparency is good or bad? Shirley, is transparency good or bad?
Transparency is good. It's good culture.
Transparency is good. Transparency to your spouse is good or bad?
Sorry, to come again?
No. Complete transparency to the spouse, is it good or bad?
It's good.
Good. Okay. Gossip. Gossip is bad. Toxic, it's bad. Okay. Innovation is good. Okay. Open door policy is good. Now we all know, thank you very much for your responses. I'm happy that you are very active with me. You are interacting with me. And that gives me a feeling that I'm not just talking in front of the laptop, but I'm sharing my ideas in front of the very lively and rich participants. Good. So we all know what is a good culture and what is a bad culture. The same thing, whatever that we see here, can also be applied to our home. Even in our home, we can have these kind of things, which can define what is the culture that we nurture in our house or in the church or in the organization. So we all want a good culture. A good culture is something that sorry, it gets stuck here. Okay, a good culture is something that we all like to have, and we want to proceed towards that. So what is a good culture? What is a bad culture that we have seen? A good culture is a culture that we all want to have. A good culture is a culture that we all want to nourish in an organization. A good culture is the one that we want the leadership to model. A good culture is something that we want to enjoy, because we spend 1/3 of our life in the organization. 8 hours out of 24 hours we spend in the job. But sometimes even after coming home, you still sit on your laptop and do work. That means half of your life you spend in the organization. And if the organization culture is bad, if the organization culture is toxic, then you are already wasting 50% of your life. And then after life, you don't know. If you go to hell, then the entire afterlife is also wasted. If you go to heaven, yes, you are saved. Good. So now the question is, now while we are living in the earth, whether we want to have a hell or a heaven, it depends on what kind of an organization culture that we would like to have. If you're looking for a good organization culture, then there are some pillars to the organization culture. First of all, we need to have a greater purpose. So people don't change just like that. We always say people, resist change. It's not absolutely, completely true. Yes, we all resist change because it is uncomfortable. Change sometimes it's not good. Change sometimes, helps force us to move from our comfort zones. So change is not something that we all like. But if a change comes with a greater reward, then we will look for a change. For example, now we are working here. If you are asked to move to, if you move to another organization where the salary is almost the same, you love the current organization, and then you are like, but the organization is not performing well, so you have to take up another job and move to another organization, then that change brings some kind of an uncomfort feeling, because you don't know how the new boss will be, how the organization culture will be, then it's not good. But tomorrow you get a job in UN where your salary is 3 times more than what you get now, or you get an abroad posting or an expatriate posting, you get a good salary in dollars or in euro, then is it something that we won't say that change is bad? We would like to take it up and we want to move on. We embrace the change. So it all depends on the greater purpose that we are looking for. So in an organization, before we want to bring in and change as HR directors or HR managers, we need to understand what is the purpose. Why do we want to bring a change? Then clarity. People look for clarity. People look for clarity of job, clarity of roles, clarity of expectations. People need to have very clear indications of what they want to do, how they need to do, and who should do it. Then people have connection. They like to be connected. We are all social beings, so we like to be connected. We like to collaborate. We like to do things together. So in unity, there is a strength. If there is a mistrust, then connection is lost. Then common language. In an organization culture, if the culture is good, then people speak a common language, the same theme. For example, if you go to World Vision, and everybody in World Vision speaks about holistic transformation. And that's the language that it's commonly used. Community development is a language that's used in INGOs. So what the purpose, the association, how are we attached to it? Then that's what I call club. There is a unified identity. People get together, people who want to follow a greater purpose get together, and then they join and sort of an informal club. So either you are in the club or you are outside the club. If you are not in the club, then you are outside the club. And a supporting environment. The leadership also should provide a supporting environment for a good culture to nourish. So these are the pillars of a good culture. Greater purpose, clarity of roles and responsibilities, connection, common language, a unified identity, and the supportive environments. Well, if we want to bring this kind of an organization culture in an organization, then what we must do? We need to look into two aspects of the culture. One is on the staff side, the other is on the organization side. So staff always look for these 4 things. First of all, identity. They would like to identify themselves with the organization. They would like to align their values with the organization. So are they fully aligned with the organization goals? Then staff care. Are they taken care? Emotional well-being, material well-being, financial well-being, is everything is taken care? Do we provide good remuneration for them to be happy in the organization. Then staff development. They need to also develop. Then they need to engage, staff engagement. So these are the 4 aspects of staff that we must focus on when we are planning for a culture change. Then when it comes to organization, see, staff cannot change by themselves, because many times, like in many organization culture change is always on staff. They start something, and that either result in the reduction of staff or result in reorganization and retrenchment. And so it creates a lot of fears. But organization culture is more than that. It's all about leadership, the top leadership, what kind of a leadership behaviors that they exhibit, whether the organizational ability, agility, whether they have the ability to change and adapt to the different environment, because things are changing. And if our organization is not able to adapt and change, then we are failing. Organizational effectiveness, how our policies, systems, and processes are up to date, simple, modern, and effective. So these are the aspects of the staff and the organization that we must focus when we think about organization culture. Then when we think about organization culture, in theory, I mean, if you Google or if you read books on organization culture, there are several theories of organization culture, several frameworks are given. I would like to just share one framework where it is developed by McKinsey. It's called 7 S frameworks. So 7 S, it is structure, systems, strategy, shared values, skills, staff, and style. And these are the 7 aspects of the organization wherein which we need to bring a desired change. And these are all interrelated. I'm not going to dwell explaining the framework, but this is a framework, a good framework for us to consider when we are thinking about organization culture change. Actually, it explains about the 7 dimensions of a culture change that we must focus on. Now, how to transform an organization culture? It's very simple, but at the same time, it's very complicated. Now, all of you must be managers or directors. You may be having your own department. If not, you are managing the entire organization. And when you are managing a department, when you are managing a unit, when you are managing staff under you, you see the culture aspects of the organization. First of all, we must understand the current culture and the challenges in the current culture. What is wrong in the current culture? Why do we want to change the culture? Maybe if my organization, there is too much of gossip, too much toxic, the leadership is bureaucratic, or the communications is not flowing properly. The structure is very ambiguous. People don't know, they don't have clear job descriptions. They don't know what to do. There is too much of role, too many people for too little things to do. And there is high cost and no innovation. People are not supported. People are not provided the right environment to work. So if these kind of issues are there, we need to pick up the themes of what needs to change and why it needs to change. How do we find out that? If I'm an HR director, how will I find out what is wrong or what is something that needs to improve in World Vision South Sudan? Now I can do this by doing a survey to the employees, conducting an organizational survey, or conducting focus group discussions, holding senior leadership meetings and middle managers meetings and lower level managers meetings with the executives. Find out what needs to change and why it has to change. See, I cannot say that my organization should change A, B, C, D. The change aspect should come from the staff themselves. The leadership themselves should come together and say, hey, these are the things that we must change. We need to take the ownership for the change. So what aspects needs to change and why it needs to change should come from the staff, not only from the leadership. That is very, very important in the culture change. Then involve leadership. After finding out the aspects of the culture change and the current gaps, we must involve the leadership also. Have discussions with the leadership. What behaviors we need to pursue? What new behaviors that the leadership should need? What behaviors the leadership should eliminate? For example, behaviors means, like appreciating staff, coming to meeting, punctuality, on time, then writing mails, clear cut, sharp, good mails, and the way that we address our employees, the feedback system in the organization, the performance management system in the organization, the grievance redressal processes in the organization, the way that the senior leadership communicates down the line to the frontline workers. There are so many aspects to it when it comes to leadership. And the CEO plays a very important point in shaping the organization's culture. So we must have a discussion with the senior leadership team to find out what aspects of the organization culture that we must change and why we need to change. So we need to do a survey, find out the issues of change from the staff. We also need to have meetings with the senior leadership, find out what's bothering them and why we need to change. Then create a sense of urgency. We need to also examine our market and our competitors, identify the potential crisis and major opportunities. What will happen if you don't change and if we keep on moving the way that we want? For example, in the last 2 years, COVID was rampant. When COVID was there, we completely changed the way that we were doing the business. We started to Zoom on online meetings. We cut down on our travels. We started doing things effectively. We started to work from home. We started to have different regulations with regard to work and the way that we manage things. It completely changed or revolutionized the work culture of many organizations. As a result of that, surprisingly, we had a lot of good results. We had cost cutting. We were able to manage the same thing without much cost. The travel costs were reduced. Now organizations are thinking of giving 3 days holiday, 3 days, 4 days work, and organizations are giving a sort of a flexi working system, which we didn't think some 5 years ago. We were so rigid about morning 8 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock with half-an-hour lunch break, and people must work. But now the work culture is completely changed. That is because of the market and also our competitors and because of the surroundings. Because when other organizations are improving, if you are not improving, then we'll be lost in the race. Then after understanding the current gaps in the organization culture, the things that must change, then we must create a vision and a strategy to make the result goals. We must create an aspiration. For example, tomorrow you go for a medical checkup and the doctor tells you, hey, your heart is very bad. Unless you do exercise, you will not survive for more than 3 months. Then, out of fear, we will immediately prepare an exercise plan and we will start doing the exercise rigorously. This is based on fear. But the same thing, if we do it based on a reward system. For example, if you are as a father, you tell your son, hey, if you do jogging every day, then in 2 months, if you do it for 3 months, then at the end of 3 months, I'll buy you a new laptop for you, or I'll buy a new iPhone. Then out of the reward or the aspiration for the reward, then you will start to do exercise. There is a difference. So in the same way, if we create a positive vision as to why we need to change, and if that vision comes from the staff themselves, then they will buy it. So first of all, we must create a vision, a unified vision, not the vision created by leadership. A new CEO comes and says, no, I want to change everything. Come on, from tomorrow onwards, everything should change. People won't buy it. They'll say, we have seen so many CEOs, you are there, then you are yet another CEO. Okay, you will do this for 2 years and then you will go, someone else will come, then we will go through the same thing. So there will be resistance. Rather, if you create a positive vision, a unified vision, then people will be aligned to it. A strategy, then we must work a strategy to meet the desired goal. Then we must engage employees. Employee engagement is very, very important in a culture change. Making them feel involved, give them a sense of ownership in the process. Develop some culture champions, identify culture champions, give them the work, and reward them, make them feel important. Then create so many cross-functional groups, so they will get involved in the whole culture change process. Definitely, in any organization, there may be some staff who will be highly resistant to any change, especially those who serve in the organization for a long time, mediocres, the rumor mongers. These are the people who will always be very negative. Identify those people and deal with them separately, or also pull them in the club. That means, you need to give them some work for them to get involved, so that they become the culture champions. That's the work of HR. Then effectively communicate the change, why we are changing, what we are changing, and how the future will look like, the dream future, the vision. We must communicate this very clearly to staff, and it should be consistent. We need to communicate consistently, and it must be open, transparent, and honest. So we need to clear suspicions and rumors, because whenever there is a culture change, staff are so afraid, because they are afraid of losing job. They are afraid of pay cut. They are afraid of more work, or they are afraid that something negative or something bad is going to happen to them. Everything is good going to happen to them. Nobody will resist. So we must clear all the suspicions and rumors by constantly communicating what we are doing, why we are doing, how we are doing, how far we are progressing. Then from our HR side, we should also identify and overcome barriers. Why do they resist? There may be some people who will be resisting. As I told earlier, you need to identify the resistance and train change champions to work with them. Then as you create the culture, as you work on the transformed culture in an organization, you will also find the new employees joining the organization. See, when the new employees joining the organization, you should also make sure that the new employees joining the organizations are culture fit. That means they are very good employees aligned to the new culture that you are aspiring for. So even in the recruitments, we must introduce culture fit assessment, organizational fit assessment, so as to find a good employees who can very well gel with the organization, new culture. Then as we work on this culture change by creating a sense of urgency, by creating a sense of vision and a strategy and an action plan, and involve people constantly communicating, then we must also celebrate short-term victory. That is called quick wins. In a culture change normally happens from 3 months to 1 year time. I mean, a process. It's a process. It doesn't happen in one day. For example, if you want to reduce your, if you want to promote a good health, and if you want to reduce your weight, it doesn't happen in one day. You start to go to gym, or you sort of do jogging, you do other exercises, you cut down your eating habits, you do a lot of new interventions, but change becomes visible only after a month, after 2 months, after 3 months. But it's also important that we should not wait till the end to celebrate the change. We must also celebrate our quick wins, because whatever that we changed within 3 months time or within 2 months time, so let's celebrate it. Explain that to the employees. Hey, we have achieved this, let's celebrate. So this gives a very positive motivation for staff that change is possible. Hey, we are really changing and something better is happening. There is an improved change, a remarkable change, very good. So you celebrate. Then reflect on the changes. Once, as you go through this culture, midway through the transformation process, or at the end of the process, do some reflection workshop and find out what are the positive outcomes of this whole process, and what we could have done differently. So do some reflection, action, reflection, action, action, reflection, action. That's a method that we must follow. Then reinforce the change. Transformation is a continuous process, so reiterate. For example, if you go to church, every week, the pastor is preaching a sermon to reiterate the Christian values again and again and again. We all know that. We all know Bible. We all know Christian preaching. We all know what God wants from us. But still, we go and listen to sermons every week, and the pastor keeps on reinforcing or reiterating the Christian lifestyle and behaviors and what is expected of us. Why? Because by telling something constantly again and again and again, it goes deep into your subconscious mind. It becomes a part and parcel of our system, and thereby we sustain the organization culture. So reinforcement is very, very essential. This is how we transform an organization culture. Now, let me give a practical example of how you can shape your team culture with some examples. Now, on your right-hand side of the screen, you see some statements. See, when staff come to work, they all have some basic needs that they want the organization to fulfill. What are the basic needs? Number one, job clarity. What is expected of my work? There are many people I've seen in some organizations where there is no clear JDs, where there is no clear roles and responsibilities. Everybody is assisting somebody and everybody is doing somebody's work. So in the absence of clear roles and responsibilities, in the absence of an expected outcome, if a staff cannot say that I must do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if they are not able to articulate, then there is something wrong in their job itself. So job clarity, what is expected of the work? If job is very clear, then they will focus on the work. Then tools and resources to do the job well. Are they provided good tools and resources to do the job well? There are some organizations, they have jobs, but there are no tools and resources to do the job. People suffer. And opportunity to use my skills and my strengths to work every day. Do I have the opportunity to use my strength, my skills in the work that I do every day? And do I have regular, helpful conversation about my work with my line manager? Do you have a healthy, open, transparent conversation with your staff? So these are the things that they are expecting at the work. These are the basic needs. Every employee in an organization expects these things. And this is what defines a good culture at the basic level. Then we go to the next level, personal support. In addition to the basic needs, they also need some other support. At work, staff opinion counts. Do we value their opinions? Do we give opportunity to express their opinions? Manager supporting skill and career development. Is my manager supporting my skill development? Is he supporting my career development? Then do I get the required support? Feel cared for and treated as a valued part of the organization. Am I valued? Do I experience the care and support in the organization? Then receiving recognition or praise for doing work, good work. In many organizations, managers don't even say, hi, you are doing a good work. They don't even write a mail saying that, hey, I appreciate your good work. You have done well in this. Even a personal note to them really make a change, a positive impact. So these are the personal support that the staff expect from the line manager or from the organization. Then in the hierarchy, the top one comes the culture. That defines the team culture. Support to provider to take the calculative risk. Is my organization providing me a support to take calculated risk, fail fast and learn from failure? Line manager giving honest feedback, even if it is uncomfortable. Staff are held accountable for performance. It is safe to express my disagreement. In a meeting, I can clearly express my disagreement. It's fine because I'm not against the manager, but I'm only expressing my disagreement on a particular subject. Exploring new ways of making things simple, faster, and more cost-effective. Staff welcoming others who are different from them. I've seen this, in some organizations, if you are not from a particular country, they are not accepted. If you're not from a particular tribe, you are not accepted. If you're not from a particular region, you are not accepted. Even you may be of the same you may be from the same country, but if you come, let's say a project in the eastern region, if someone is transferred from the northern region, people treat them as alien. They don't accept. They say, no, 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 you are not from the region, my region, so you are not one among me. No, we don't accept you. So I've seen many practical examples of staff suffering because they are alienated, or they are not in the club, or they are not treated one among them. Staff successfully collaborate with others across different teams, departments, and functions. Is there a successful collaboration among staff, teams, and functions? So these are the things that defines the team culture. So basic needs at work, personal support, and the team culture. So if we focus, for example, if you make, if you analyze your department and you give a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 on these aspects of the work, then you know in your team what are the aspects of culture that you must work on, what are your culture gaps, and what is something that you must work on, or we must work on, promoting a safe and good and positive culture. So let me summarize the culture transformation step. The culture transformation step is nothing but a very simple, easy step. It's simple and easy, but it is very difficult and very complicated, and it's very, very. I mean, it's in a sense, it needs a lot of wisdom, discernment, and the grace of God, in addition to your expertise and experience in OD. First of all, conduct organizational survey, focus group discussions, leadership meetings, and identify the culture gaps. What do you want to change? Why do you want to change? And what is your dream future? That must be very clear. Then analysis of the reports and discussions by HR. So analyze the focus group discussion, organization survey reports, analyze and pick up core themes. What are the pain points? What are the themes of change that are emerging? Pick up those things. Maybe pick up some 10 points, pick up 5 points. Just concentrate on 4 or 5. Just pick up what is on structure, what is on staffing, what is on skills, what is about the communication issues. Like pick up on all those issues. Then once you pick up the pain points and the aspects of change, then dissemination of the results to the senior leadership. Senior leadership must hear the brutal facts, because in many organizations fail because the senior leadership culture. If they have a toxic culture, if they are very bureaucratic, if they are very suppressive culture, I mean, if they exhibit a suppressive culture, if they are not open, transparent, then the whole organization suffers. So if people need to change, first of all, the leadership needs to change. So leadership should hear the brutal facts. And also we need to disseminate the results to the managers and staff. Hey, we have conducted the survey, we have conducted the need for change, and this is what staff express. These are the 10 points that staff wants. These are the 10 aspects that staff wants a clear change, a positive change. And this is our dream state. This is what we must express to the staff so that we get their bindings, we get their cooperation and support in the process. Then using that, we must design an action plan, a simple action plan for development and a desired future, and HR department should own it, but in collaboration with the leadership and staff at all levels. Otherwise, it will always be considered as an HR plan and not the staff plan. And that is why it is good for us to create some culture change transformation committees or cultural functional team, some teams at various levels to look into various aspects, so that the entire ownership of the process is distributed across the organization. Then we must implement the action plan. When we implement the action plan, we must also design the expected outcomes for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. 3 months things are called quick wins. And once a quarter, HR reports to senior leadership and staff on the culture change aspects. What have we progressed? How have we progressed? What have we learned? What are some of the good signs? What we must change, and keep on changing and adapting the culture plan or action plan to suit the needs, and also make some minor changes here and there, so that it doesn't become a sort of a rigid plan, but a flexible plan without losing its focus and purpose. Then once in a while, maybe during the middle of the process or at the end of the process, do a reflection workshop and get a summary of learnings. This is what we must do. So it's a diagnosis. Then after the diagnosis, an action plan for improvement, celebrate short-term results, celebrate long-term results, and learn from the culture process. This is how I would summarize the culture transformation steps that an HR director must own in an organization. He should pioneer, or he should sort of work with the senior leadership and then start the process. Culture transformation is not all about cutting staff, cutting cost, or retrenchment or reorganization. No, culture change is much more than this. So, as HR leaders, we must aspire for a personal positive change in the organization, and we must be the one who need to sort of constantly deliberate with the senior leadership, explaining to them the need for culture change, the need for a positive, a need for an open and transparent culture, and aspects of the culture that we must focus on and we must change, and involve the senior leadership and the middle level leadership, the lower level leadership. Then once we get an understanding and agreement, come up with an action plan and distribute the ownership, but then overall manage the process and enjoy the quick wins, quick results, and thereby become a change agent. That is why HR leaders are called change agent. To start the process, tomorrow when we go to your department or your unit, you identify what are the culture gaps, or what is the positive. Let me put it this way: what is the positive?
I did all that life. They enslaved me, and they got me working in some raunchy bar, but I managed to escape, Mr. Harvey. Believe me, please, I'm begging you. I'm scared.
Okay, I hear some. I don't know. Okay, so what's the positive culture, or what's the positive aspects of the culture we must focus on, and then come up with interventions to address it. You can also do a culture change, a culture transformation process in your own family. Identify what are the positive aspects of the cultures that we must work on, then come up with an action plan, distribute the ownership, then enjoy the short-term wins and long-term results. Do some reflection, learn from the process, and then again work on transformation. So it's a continuous process. It doesn't start on one day. It doesn't end on one day. I cannot say, okay, in World Vision South Sudan, I started the culture change process on, let's say, 1st May, 1st June 2022, and then I finished everything by 31st March 2023. No, it's a continuous process. We keep on, as you start working and working and working, it's a continuous process. It keeps on improving, it keeps on modifying, and then we keep on learning. And as we learn, we grow. As we grow, we learn. So that's how it goes. Thank you. Let me stop here, and let me give some time for you to ask questions on culture, culture change, culture transformation process. Then I will address your questions. Questions from
Here are
your...
some results from a search.
All right. Mr. Ravi, thank you for such an elaborate presentation on change. We do have a first question here as the others bring their question. It's from Dorothy. Dorothy is concerned, what happens if the top management is not supportive? We all know that change is a leadership mandate, but what happens if the top management is not supportive of the change that HR wants to be able to drive across?
Okay, if the top management is not supportive, then let's not do culture transformation. It's not going to be effective. But then what is the role of HR? The role of HR is to help the senior leader or your CEO to understand the danger of not changing the culture. See, the CEO, for example, if I don't go for a medical checkup, I may not know what is wrong in my heart, what is wrong in my liver, what is wrong in my kidney. Okay, so my wife should sort of give me a sort of a positive encouragement, for me to say, hey, you are okay, you are doing very well, you're doing your work well. But however, as you are getting old, it's good for us because you are a parent and you have sons and your daughters to get married. So it is good for you to sort of, go to and do a medical checkup and see what's good. I mean, if there is something, everything is good, it's fine. If it's not good, let's do something, So by constant encouragement, she should sort of create an urgency in me for me and to go and do a medical checkup. So once I go and do a medical checkup, then I understand, my goodness, I am not as healthy as I think. There are issues in my body, issues in my heart, issues in the liver, issues in the kidney. Then immediately the doctor prescribes something A, B, C, D, and out of fear, I start to do things. So in the same way, the HR director should be, it's a catalyst. You need to sort of work with the leaders. He also needs to work with the CEO and make presentations, raise some discussions in the senior leadership team, and discuss about what's good going on, what are some of the things that are not good, and how do we change, and what are the other organizations modeling, do some research, and then keep on pushing the agenda and make the senior leader to accept the need for a culture change. Once the person buys the idea, then it's easy for you to sort of come up with action plans and enforce it. And it's our responsibility as HR leaders to interact with the senior leadership and to make the CEO understand the real positive impact of culture change. Okay, the next question. Thank you.
We have a request here to.
Yeah.
What
the next
if
question.
Leadership? Yeah. What if the leadership? That's a follow-up to that question. What if the leadership is the problem? For instance, they lack transparency. How would you go about that if it's not answered from your previous conversation?
Yeah, if the leadership is a problem, I'm a part of leadership, right? So as an HR director, if I'm not able to convince my CEO, or if I'm not able to convince my core directors, then what is the HR and OD skill that I have that I must further strengthen or further work on? Of course, there are some tough bosses who will not listen to anything. Okay, I do agree. I also worked with some tough bosses who are very fixed mind, rigid thinking, and they are not very supportive. But in this case, forget about them and then start doing positive change within your scope. For example, you can start doing a culture change in your HR department or in the department that you are leading. So once you start of doing things in your change and in the department, and when people see a visible change, a culture transformation process in your department or in your function, then they will start asking questions. And then you can make a presentation and explain to them, hey, this is what I've tried in my unit. This is what I've tried in my department and division. It's working. Why not we try in other departments? So this is one way of pushing the culture change agenda. Okay.
All right.
Then please give examples of culture gaps. Culture gaps means culture gaps when it comes to, for example, culture gaps. One example I could say is gossip. Why people gossip? There is a lot of time for them to gossip because there is no adequate work for them. And then also information is not given clearly to all of them. So in the absence of information, people gossip. So this is a culture gap. Absence of information or no clear information, or information link is not very clear. That is a culture gap. Then the other culture gap is bureaucratic culture. The leadership doesn't meet the staff regularly and interact with them and get to know them personally and address their issues. As a result of that, there is a big gap between the leadership and the rest of the organization. So that's a culture gap. The feedback system is a culture gap. Your grievances, if staff grievances are not addressed properly, that could become a culture gap. So there are various culture gaps. Any negative things, gossip, rumor mongering, and then low morale. Why people have low morale? When you go, are you happy when you go to job? Are you happy when you work with your staff? When there is low trust is a suspicion and doubt. That's a culture gap. Why people have low trust and suspicion and doubt? Because things are not clear. How do you promote teamwork? How do you promote unity? So these are the examples of culture gaps. I hope it's clear now. Then don't start the journey of change if there is no buy from the senior leadership. That's a recipe for failures. Unless you are leading a rebellion, that you may have negative effects on you. Yes, I fully agree with you. Don't, I mean, as soon as you become an HR director or a board director, immediately don't try to change the entire organization saying that, hey, I must do a culture transformation process. So let me do it. First of all, I must be a role model. Change should happen within me and then within my department. And then slowly, organization will buy the change. It takes time because we are dealing with human beings. Even God is trying to work a culture transformation process in us, a spiritual transformation process, but it's still not happening because we are rebellious people, right? But he's patient, he's waiting. There is a positive reinforcement. He speaks to us every day, asking us to change. Well, and then is your organization culture is high performing culture? It's an average or poor? Contact us, okay? So that's for organizational assessment, and they will do a wonderful job. A great HR, do your homework and present your case to the CEO or the board and let them have the pros and cons of the change and why as an institution has to change. Yes, because we must create a sense of urgency, a desired dream, and then why we must change. That will be very clear. Unless people understand the positive impact of why we must change or what will happen if we don't change. If the board and the senior leadership understand this very clearly, then they will buy it. But if they don't understand, if you don't present the case, if you don't do your homework and present this clearly, no, nobody is going to buy your ideas. Then anything else? Any other question?
We seem to have brought this discussion to end well. And just to summarize it well for those who joined us in the middle, we have the mandate to bring change as HR leaders in our organization. And I want to read this statement that says that the effective leader will develop the organization for the future. They will grow, develop, change, and challenge the organization to equip it for the future. And part of this impact will be seen in the entity for which you as a leader, you are responsible for most directly, but also in the influence that you will be able to spread to other leaders in your organization and beyond, because it is your role as a change leader to model, advocate for change, growth and development within and without your organization. Thank you so much, Ravi. We do appreciate that you have found time to be with us. I know in Juba you're 1 hour behind us, so you pretty have a lot of time for your evening. We pray that you enjoy it. And for our participants, we want to thank you so much for making time. We are really excited because this is our first webinar for the Purpose HR-led network, and you really have stepped up to the plate. So thank you so much. I will share with you this recording, and please stay tuned in the Purpose-led HR group link that we've given you, and you'll be able to know more about the next webinar that we are going to have. From me and my partners in the Purpose HR-led group, thank you very much, and may you go and start your journeys of culture change in your organization, and may you have a wonderful journey as you do so. God bless. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much for the helping me to explain the culture change aspects, and thank you very much all the participants. Santi Sana. Thank you.
Namaste.
Okay.